Yes, I was like,
You're good, honey. The stitches, they should dissolve, but sometimes they don't, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks for them to all dissolve.
oh,
But
okay.
as long as you're past the 14 days
Yeah.
from the surgery, you're fine.
I think
Oh, okay.
someone's not
Yeah,
muted.
because it's for this Friday morning. And so, and I said, what is that? And I'm telling you, my vision is so bad. I used the magnifying glass and I said, oh, that's a stitch. I give, it must be coming out because it's like a loop now. You know what I mean?
Yep, and that's what happens.
Oh, is that what happens? So they fall.
Hi, Mickey, can you hear me?
Hi. Sorry about that. Can everyone hear? I can hear you, Courtney.
I think Steve needs to be unmuted too.
Hold on. Okay, Steve, I've asked you to unmute.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, perfect. Okay. I think we're ready to go. Okay, welcome everyone to our Giving Tuesday Zoom seminar. I'm Mickey Suzuki. I'm the Development Director at the Non-Human Rights Project. We also have Stephen M. Wise, our President and Founder, and Courtney Fern, our Director of Government Relations and Campaigns. And today we're talking about the year's accomplishments. We'll try and fit it in an hour, and of course we'll leave time at the end for questions. So towards the end, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat. But we'll jump right in. So Steve and Courtney, actually, Steve, I'll start with you first.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, can you discuss what you see as our biggest accomplishment this year in terms of the litigation?
Oh, well, that's an easy question for me. The biggest accomplishment we had so far was getting ourselves in front of the Court of Appeals of New York on our habeas corpus for the elephant. It might sound like it's simple, but it's actually taken us 8 years. We have, because obviously any place that someone is litigating, you want to be able to be in front of the highest court in that jurisdiction. Also, it's easier for a lower court to rule against us than it will be for a higher court. And so we had brought, I think we brought 8 cases in the state of New York. And the first 2 times that we asked the New York Court of Appeals to hear our case, they said no. And they only hear 3% of the cases that come before them. In 2018, we had the 3rd time, and there again, they said no, but Judge Fahey did not agree with them and gave a lot of reasons why he thought we were correct. And then we brought Happy's case, and the same thing happened. Of course, we lost, although this time we lost at the trial level, only because there was a case by an appellate court against us that was far away from the Bronx. She used the word regrettably, we have to rule against you, but she didn't want to, and she explained why she thought our case was terrific. And so on the 4th time, in 8 years, we then did that. We actually then filed again, asked the Court of Appeals of New York, please to hear our case, and that was it. On the 4th time, they did. Which meant, at least in the year 2021, we were in the 3% of cases. So when that happened, I think it was on May 1st, 2021, I was ecstatic, because that's been one of the major things that we've been trying to accomplish. Bringing a lot of cases, going in front of judges who might not agree with us. All these things happened really early, when all the judges did not agree with us. Then some of the judges began to agree with us. And then we began going to try to the Court of Appeals. First, we couldn't get into the Court of Appeals. Then we had a judge who agreed with us, even though he wasn't on the majority. And now we had at least 2, maybe more judges who want to who want to hear us. Now we'll go in front of them. And again, now we could lose, we could win. It could be dissents either way. We simply don't know. But whatever happens, it shows that this has been a major accomplishment that is now going to be leading to bigger accomplishments, not only in states within the United States, but also outside the United States.
Definitely. Fantastic. And Courtney, I have the same question for you. What is the biggest accomplishment for advocacy and grassroots campaigning?
Well, I don't know if much can top the Court of Appeals agreeing to hear Happy's case. That is truly, as Steve said, monumental and historic. And as was recently stated in an amazing piece in The Atlantic, it's proving to be the most important animal rights case of the century. So I don't know if I can top it, but we have had a lot of success with our grassroots advocacy and campaigns and legislation. With respect to our campaigns and grassroots advocacy, thanks to everyone watching and all of our supporters, we've been able to really keep the pressure on the Bronx Zoo and the Comerford Zoo with respect to their imprisonment of Minnie and Happy. For Minnie, so many of you have taken action whenever we've asked. This year, we actually have had more actions taken than any year previously, having people email or contact the Comerford Zoo, the Bronx Zoo, those in charge, state and local representatives in Connecticut regarding Minnie, and the USDA. We've had so many people sign our change.org petition, our petition on behalf of Happy, or it's actually not our petition. It was started before we filed, but since we filed on behalf of Happy, over 1 million people have signed, and currently there are over 1.5 million people from over 90 different countries who have signed petition calling for the Bronx Zoo to send Happy to a sanctuary, and almost 500,000 people have signed our change.org petition for the Comerford Zoo. And with respect to Minnie at the Comerford Zoo, we have been so successful in keeping pressure on the zoo and keeping track of Minnie. We were, thanks to all of you again, were successfully able to get them to remove their Facebook page, which was promoting their opening of the farm and exhibiting animals such as Minnie to the public. Sorry, my cat has decided to join us. She wants to get involved. We have been so successful with getting the media coverage for Happy. I can't take complete credit for this. We have an amazing communications director, Lauren Choplin, and Steve and the rest of the team. We've been able to get feature stories in National Geographic, both on Happy and on Minnie, in Time Magazine and Time Kids, and The Atlantic. So many more people are learning about our work. So many more people are learning about why we do what we do and why we advocate for non-human animal rights and the need for animal rights. The National Geographic piece really on Minnie really did an amazing job on highlighting the failures of the USDA and why animal welfare laws in this country are insufficient to adequately protect non-human animals, and really highlight why we need their rights to be recognized by the courts and the legislature and just society in general to really, acknowledge that, elephants have rights and they should be, recognized and protected. A lot of the work that I do this year has been behind the scenes, and we've really set ourselves up, at least for legislation and our campaigns for 2022. I can't believe it's already going to be 2022 to be really a seminal year for, non-human animal rights. We are going to kick off the year with a bang, and I'm really excited for everyone to learn about that. And I just want to say, since it is Giving Tuesday, all these accomplishments would not be possible without your support, and, signing all of our action alerts, donating, and all of that. And Mickey, I don't know if you want me to touch on the race, or you can talk about it, because I thought that was an amazing success in getting everyone involved.
Oh yeah, the race. I almost forgot because there's so much happening this year. We set out to, we had a pretty ambitious goal of hitting I think it was 20,000 miles, collective miles together and raising 100,000. We raised about $60,000 in the month of October, thanks to everyone who got active for animal rights, whether it be walking, running. I know Courtney did a lot of Peloton. I did some yoga. Steve, I know you're walking your dog. Thank you everyone for getting involved. That was something we'd never done before, something we thought would be fun, a way for everyone to kind of connect while everyone was still apart and not really able to fully get back to doing in-person events and things like that. So yeah, that was a really good and great event for us. So Steve and Courtney, I have a question for both of you. Steve, we'll start with you first. What do you think made the accomplishments in litigation possible, and what obstacles remain to be overcome?
Well, the things that made it possible was that this is exactly what we have been working on for many years. I mean, I've been working on it. I think I'm at 36 years. When I first began to think in 1985 that it was that non-human animals needed rights, no one had ever done that before, and it required a lot of time to sit and think of what we're going to do. And that, for me, it involved teaching at 9 law schools, including Harvard and Stanford, writing 22 law review articles and 4 books, and doing everything I could think of as to how we might be able to achieve something like this. And then it required putting it all together with really, really good people, where we sit down and talk a lot about it. And before we ever actually began filing lawsuits in 2013, we came up with specific plans as to what we're going to do, what we would expect, and how long things would take. Actually, things are moving faster than we thought they would. We knew that we were going to have issues, and I'm very familiar with them. You may be able to see behind me, I have bookshelves, but on one of the bookshelves right over there, I have more than 150 books on the history of slavery, how it happened and how it ended. Many places. And I studied those and wrote a book about them myself about the Somerset case. And what we do is we follow those things. We understand what people do when they hate you. We understand what they do when they want to continue to do something that we think is simply morally wrong. And what you should expect, that when something has been going badly for 2,000 years, it doesn't suddenly change. It takes a while to change. You have to have a lot of patience and work really hard, and that's what we do. And so the obstacles that remain to be overcome is that it's a long process. We are now getting judges who agree with us, which we had not had in New York, and people, as Mickey pointed out, people are beginning to write about us, and they write about us in places where they try to keep crazy folks not in it. So we are now no longer seen as the crazy folks, and we're seen as respectable lawyers who have very powerful arguments. And so, but that doesn't mean that a judge who's never heard of it in her whole life or his own life, it's unlikely that they're going to agree with us for the first time. So we bring a lawsuit in New York, for example, as I said, 8 times before we're able to do this. And we might not be finished. We might go to 9, 10, 11, 12, who knows? As we begin to bring other lawsuits in whatever states or countries that we do, we'll always be assuming that the first time is not necessarily when we're going to win, or the 5th time or the 10th time. But what we do is that we begin to explain to judges what we do. I'd say it's not surprising that Justice Tuitt, who wrote a spectacularly wonderful opinion about us and used the word regretfully, she ruled against us. She thought she would rule in our favor, but she understood that she probably could not. I think there was a specific reason why she was so much that way. And one of the reasons is in many of the cases we hadn't been able to speak at all. The judges had ruled against us without us even having the chance to speak, or we spoke for 15 minutes, or we spoke for 30 minutes. Justice to it allowed us to speak for 13 hours. And in 13 hours, we could persuade just about anybody that we're right, because all of the huge numbers of facts are in our position. It's great. And also the law actually favors us. Only when people ignore it do we lose. So the only cases we tend to lose are those in which the law is violated and they didn't listen to us. But when you have 13 hours, that allows people to ask us as many questions as they want. And we want judges to ask us as many questions as they want, because we think that once the judge has had her or his questions answered, then we're going to win.
Absolutely. And Courtney, I'll ask you the same question for litigation and our campaigns.
What made the, sorry, can you remind me of the question?
Oh, yeah. What do you think made those accomplishments possible?
Well, that's
and
easy.
The obstacles?
With our campaigns and, with our grassroots advocacy, really everyone getting involved and taking action and raising awareness about our work has made it so successful. Without you taking action, we wouldn't be able to effectuate the change that we want on a grassroots level by showing, legislatures and people in power that, there needs to be a change, and people are very passionate about having Minnie freed or having Happy freed, and that it's wrong for them to be imprisoned and exploited in the way that they are. So without, supporters like yourselves, we wouldn't have had the success that we have. And I think because of, all of our work being more widely shared on social media, and more reporters being interested in the work that we're doing, and the great success the legal team has had, we've been able to get, like I mentioned before, this amazing, media coverage. So we have a new audience, and that's really, more people are understanding the work that we're doing. And I think that's made it really a lot more successful. Some people have never heard of the right to bodily liberty. Some people are, unfamiliar with what autonomy is. Some people are unfamiliar with the difference between welfare and rights. And really, everyone just sharing the work that we're doing, and having all of these amazing reporters and publications cover our work has really made it, the success that it is today. And the greatest obstacle with respect to campaigns and, grassroots advocacy has been COVID, not being able to, engage in person, and everything still being shut down has, made things more difficult. But I think we've been really successful in overcoming those obstacles. And, like I said, we've really been able to work behind the scenes this year and set ourselves up for 2022 to be really the most successful year I think that we're going to ever have, and that the animals are going to have.
Yeah, definitely. So much more to come next year, and stuff that we really want to talk about, but we won't get into that today. But definitely, please stay tuned. So I think this is also still a question for both of you. My question was, so to delve further into Happy's case, Steve, and Courtney, what were your personal reactions to the news that the Court of Appeals had decided to hear arguments in support of her personhood and right to liberty?
Well, for me, in fact, I'll tell you something or repeat part of it that will make you understand. You've been working to achieve something like this for decades. You've been working on it for 8 years. You've been turned down 3 times. There's only a 3% chance of you being accepted by the court. When all of a sudden they did, I was ecstatic. I mean, we had achieved something that we needed to achieve. We wanted to achieve. We've been trying to do it for years and years and years, but had been unsuccessful. It felt that we would eventually be successful, and we are. And I celebrated, and I decided, tonight I'm going to stop working at 7.
And for those who don't know, Steve works just around the clock every day, no break. So that's a big thing for Steve. And how about you, Courtney?
I was like elated. We all had it was a group text, all of NhRP staff. Then we had a conference call, and I think we were all sort of. It was pretty early for me. I think it was like 6 a.m. In shock and sort of not disbelief, because I think we all knew it was eventually going to happen, but just it was sort of unbelievable and just amazing that this happened, and it just shows that it's sorry, even now I don't even know how to say it, like articulate it. It's just so amazing that this is happening, and I'm so excited for Happy. I was so excited for Happy. I mean, Happy, this is about Happy. I mean, obviously the overall movement, we want to secure non-human animal rights for all elephants and the species that we represent, but this case is about Happy. She's been in prison for over 40 years at the Bronx Zoo on a tiny 1-acre lot. This is about Happy, and Happy deserves her freedom. And that the highest court in New York is agreeing to hear her case is just so monumental for her, not only for all elephants, but really it's for Happy.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to take this time to show some photos of Happy, actually, from a recent visit I had at the Bronx Zoo. So let me share my screen. Can you see that? Okay, good. Yeah, so this is, so we have photos of Happy from, I think, several years back, but we wanted to see her again. So I went right before her exhibit closed. I think it was the weekend before the exhibit closed, I went to see her. So for those who don't know, in the wintertime, she's taken out of this outdoor area at the Bronx Zoo and put in a smaller indoor barn at the back of the zoo. You'll see that in the slides here, if I go to next. So just to give everyone sort of a visual of how you see Happy at the Bronx Zoo, you have to take this monorail, and the monorail takes you around what I think is called the Asian animal exhibit or something. The Asian, I forget. But you see maybe like 5 to 7 animals all in this one monorail ride. It's quite fast. It's loud. It's just around like every 15 to 20 minutes. And it's very loud. And it goes above the animals' heads like every day. So not great. So this is me. This is how I got to see Happy. She was, as you can see, in this sort of barren yard. There's hardly any grass on the ground for most of where she is. And then also it's a 1-acre yard, but maybe like a third of it is taken up by sort of like a man-made water feature that she doesn't really use. It's right next to the highway, so you can hear in even the videos that we took, sirens, cars, and that's all day. Oh, so there it is. There's the water feature. And Happy kind of skirts around the edges, around the fence, but she can't really get close to the fence because they're electrified, as are a lot of the trees. I think you'll see that in a later slide too. Oh, and so here, this is what we're talking about in the winter months. Happy lives inside this facility, which is behind the exhibit. Gigi, who took these photos, she did a great job. She actually kind of like reared her camera around so that she could take this photo. This is something that you normally wouldn't see. So she really got in there and did some sneaky photography work to take this photo. This is obviously something that the zoo doesn't want you to see. And this is Patty, the other elephant that's at the Bronx Zoo. And there's the Y that's that I mentioned earlier. So the fence and the trees, Happy can't really get too close to them. And there's our latest photo of Happy from October. So I'll stop sharing now. Okay. Am I back?
You are.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So I guess I'll move on. And Steve, I think this is mostly a question for you. So I wanted to ask, what makes this juncture in Happy's case so important, both in itself and to the global struggle for non-human rights?
Well, people all over the country and all over the world are watching. And one reason is that they're very interested. Many people are very interested in what the Non-Human Rights Project is doing. Also understands that we are in a long-term battle. Also that we, if we lose, it's not, it's not because we didn't make the better arguments, because the judges did not accept them, and they are beginning to do that. So people are seeing that if you keep pushing, then at least in the United States, you'll be able to get the highest court in that English-speaking country, to actually hear your case, and it can take a long time to do that. And for example, in Argentina, I can't think of any case the Argentinian Supreme Court has heard, though I did hear one that in fact, I actually gave an amicus brief in which I spoke to the Constitutional Court of Colombia on behalf of the bear, and now we are bringing. In fact, yesterday we filed along with Harvard Law School a amicus brief on behalf of a primate, arguing that the primate has the right to writ of habeas corpus under Ecuadorian law, and so people find out about these because we're involved in it, and we plan again. Obviously I used to travel all the time. I haven't traveled very far in the last 20 months, but we'll begin doing it again. And even though we don't get to travel as much, there's always somebody, oftentimes myself, but sometimes other people who give talks. I give talks at conferences, I give talks to law schools, I give talks to classrooms, and I do this, probably once a week when we have COVID around. And I usually don't do that because I'll say, well, if you really want to have this kind of conference, I think it'd be a lot better if we can get together, which I think is really, really important. We haven't been able to do that, so I just give a conference or I give a talk at a conference. And so it's not only important for us, but it's important for other folks as well, to see that what our arguments are and how we're able to make some progress in the United States. And so it would also be really the first time. If we get one vote, it'll be the first time or at a high court. I guess now that there was actually a judge, I think Courtney, in Maryland, on the Maryland Court of Appeals on June 22nd, I think, who actually dissented, saying that dogs should have rights, which surprised us. We had never heard of this judge. We didn't really know she was going to do that, or why she would do it. But that's two judges who think, at least under some circumstances, a non-human animal, should have a right. And we're always talking to people around the world. In fact, tomorrow morning, I look at my calendar. I have a 9:30 a.m. appointment to speak to someone in New Delhi, India, which is 9.5 hours ahead of us. And I meet about every 3 weeks on a Sunday for 3 or 4 hours with 3 Israeli lawyers, because we're also filing a lawsuit on behalf of an elephant, not only in India, but in Israel and India.
Right. And Steve, maybe I know this could be a whole seminar in itself, but maybe you could talk a little bit about the briefs we've filed between July and present, and also the amicus briefs.
Well, we filed, both sides have filed their briefs, us and Wildlife Conservation Society. By the way, most people don't know that the Wildlife Conservation Society runs the Bronx Zoo, owns the Bronx Zoo, and is responsible for the terrible life that Happy leads, and is responsible for not settling the case. One of the things that amused me a lot is to hear that people claim that we're costing them a lot of money. And I got their income tax returns and saw they only have assets of $1.1 billion, which I agree is only slightly more than we have, but they don't have to spend all that $1.1 billion, which they have. And all they had to do is very cheaply settle the case. And, we consider ourselves a law firm. And so once we bring someone like Happy in as our client, we always do what is the most successful for our client. And so that's why we always want to settle the suit. So we're perfectly willing, even though we've been fighting to actually be able to have a high court say that she has rights. If they wanted to settle the case without us doing that and send her to sanctuary, we would do that as well. And meanwhile, I'll show you a few of them here. We filed our briefs, and then folks started filing amicus briefs, just friends of us. So here's one, a brief by Buddhist scholars. Here's one by a brief by Catholic theologians. Here's one by Edwin Cameron, who's a former judge on the highest court of South Africa, the Constitutional Court there. Here's one by Christine Korsgaard, who's a terrific philosophy professor at Harvard. Here's one by habeas corpus experts, 7 of them who know a lot about habeas corpus. Here's one by the philosopher Martha Nussbaum, who is very, very highly respected around the world. Here's one by 14 philosophers. Here's one by law professors, Professor Lawrence Tribe, Sherry Cole, Michael Dorff. And by the way, the last two actually clerked for judges on the U.S. Supreme Court, and Lawrence Tribe, I think, has argued in front of them 36 times. So they're all 3 of them are extraordinary. And here's one by Joe Wills and 35 other UK legal academics, barristers, solicitors, and we suspect that there are other ones coming in. So far, there's been a total of 70 people who have filed 9 amicus briefs, and we think they're still coming in. On the other hand, this might make it very interesting for you as well, in that. Where did I just put it? I hate when I do that. Well, let's see. There it is. Here we go. I thought I lost them. Look at the people who are going against us. There have been 4 who've gone against it. It's really fascinating. One was the American Veterinary Medical Association, the New York State Medical Association, the American Association of Veterinary Medical Colleges. They want this poor animal to be kept this way, an elephant. Here's one from the there was one from an agricultural association. There's one by an agricultural association. In all of the folks who have filed something so far, here's one. Let's see. By the biomedical research, the American Biomedical Research Association. There's one by the New York Farm Bureau. Here's one for the American Veterinary Medical Association. Here's one for Protect the Harvest, the Alliance of Marine Mammal Parks and Aquariums, Animal Agriculture Alliance, and the Feline Conservation Foundation. All of these people who are afraid they're going to lose a lot of money if it turns out that Happy's going to win, somehow, because it means that, as one of them constantly says, all we have to do is win for Happy, and we will destroy the dairy industry in New York. That will be the end of it, first in the United States and then everywhere. And I guess they can say whatever they want in order to try to scare the judges. And the interesting thing is not a single one of all of those people who filed amicus briefs have anything to do with zoos and have anything to do with elephants.
Right. Yeah. And we have a blog post that nicely summarizes all of the amicus briefs that have been filed in support of Happy's case so far. I just dropped that link in the chat. If people want to read that. And I have one.
I think I wrote all those, didn't I? I think everything you read, you will. I wrote, and they're all about 480 in 80 words. And if you like the way I write, you'll love them. If you don't like the way I write, then I wouldn't read them.
They're yes, you did, and they're also all on your LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have one final question for both of you before I open it up to viewers to ask their questions. So this is the time. If anyone has a question, please type it into the chat. And while everyone's doing that, the final question I have for both of you is, in terms of our work or your work with the NhRP, what keeps you going in hard times or challenging times, what with the pandemic, and also just, when there are seemingly feedbacks or obstacles?
Well, we have had a plan for many, many years, and we follow that plan and we work on that plan. No matter how the rest of the world is, the world can love us, can hate us, can be in great shape itself, cannot. It doesn't matter. That's one of the things that I learned from my 150 books on slavery and how it ended, is that all kinds of things were happening, but the people who wanted to end human slavery did it no matter what happened. And that's what we're doing. We have a plan, and whatever's going on the rest of the world, we take that into consideration, but it doesn't stop us from moving ahead under our plans.
I guess I'll go. What keeps me going, really, I think, is our clients. Just thinking about Happy and Minnie, and all the, even when there's been a bad day or if there's a setback, just thinking about what we're working towards, their freedom, in the overall movement. And I also want to note, we also remember our clients that currently don't have active cases. I mean, Minnie doesn't, but also Kiko and Tommy. We do some advocacy for Hercules and Leo. All of our clients. That's what motivates me, is just thinking about the work that we're doing, and all of our the future clients, the clients that we'll be advocating on behalf of in the upcoming year, and the work that we'll be doing. So just thinking about the mission is really what motivates me to keep on going.
Great. Yeah, I think that can be said for all of us at the NhRP, driven by our mission and our supporters who help us keep fighting the long fight. So thank you, everyone who supports us. So I'll open it up to questions from our viewers. So Susan asks, when is the New York Court of Appeals going to hear Happy's case?
Well, we don't know. When the Court of Appeals, we always wait for the Court of Appeals to determine everything. So we had to wait for them to tell us whether they're going to be one of the 3% that they were going to hear. We don't know. It's going to be, the only thing I'm fairly certain, it'll be sometime in 2022. My guess is perhaps in May or maybe in September. It's hard to know, but we know how many cases they've already picked. We assume that they're going to hear most or all of the cases they had picked before ours. So we think it's going to be sometime in the spring or in the fall, autumn of 2022. By the way, we'd filed a motion saying, dear court, please allow us to argue in November of 2021. And they had one lovely word which said denied. So we're just going to, they'll hear us when they're ready to hear us.
Right. And Laura asks, if the Court of Appeals does not rule in favor of Happy, can this be brought to another court, or what can be done?
Well, you really can't tell. I mean, it's possible for you to lose, but you can ask that the court hear it again, or you file another lawsuit and you fix whatever the problem was, if it's fixable. Uh, it's or it's really hard to tell. Maybe there were dissents, and so then you would try to move back. Um, we don't know. But we will be, otherwise, in a year, we'll have we'll have another case, and I'd say we'll probably have one, two, three, four, five, probably on behalf of six non-human animals, by the time we hit 2023. So we find that everything is impossible for us to predict. We just know what we have to do. And if bad things happen, then we figure out how to deal with the bad things. And we've seen it happen, with women's rights, with children's rights, with the rights of slaves. We know this sort of thing happens, and what you do is that you keep going, because you can prevail. You just hard often to when you're making important changes. It's hard to win the first few times, but we understand that.
Yeah, definitely. So Kim asks, what provision is provided for Happy and many like her if she should win to readjust her socially into normal life again, into healthy, clean environments? So I guess
Courtney can answer that one.
Oh, Courtney, I think you're
Can't hear.
muted. Oh,
Courtney, there we go, Courtney.
Okay, sorry. There's a gardener, so I muted to spare you all. So if we win and Happy is freed, she will go to a sanctuary, an elephant sanctuary, where she'll be able to choose how to spend her days, who to spend her days with, and reclaim the freedom that was stolen from her so long ago. She will not be going back to the wild, just because that's she's been held captive for so long that wouldn't be safe. So she will be going to a sanctuary that will allow her to enjoy the greatest degree of her autonomy as possible.
And so will others. If we can win on behalf of others, there are 3 sanctuaries. There's one in Georgia, one in Tennessee, one in California, and we're hoping to be able to give them as many as they can accept.
yeah, sorry, I was on mute too. So Katie has 2 very good questions. So I'll divide them up. The first one is, what will happen to Patty if Happy is released to a sanctuary?
Well, I can't promise for sure, but I suspect that then there'll be the Non-Human Rights Project will sue the Bronx Zoo on behalf of Patty.
Good news. Second part of the question, the organizations you listed who are against you, are their views able to be heard in the court to support the Bronx Zoo's case?
No, they won't be heard orally. It'd be very unusual for that to happen. These are amicus briefs that the judges read before the courtroom. It's very unusual for someone to be accepted. We suspect, we hear rumors, but we don't know. Right now, there's 9 amicus briefs, and there could be another 3. There could be another 6. We really don't know. But say that there was 6. That means there would be 15 amicus for us 4. They want to file more, so that's a lot for them to sit and read. They probably don't want to hear all of them, or in orally as well. But the oral argument will probably be just me and the attorney for the Wildlife Conservation Society of the Bronx Zoo.
Got it. And you mentioned that they have nothing to do with zoos, or they're not, elephant experts. Does that kind of come into consideration?
Well, the judges can read it, but I think it will do that. They're not only do they not know anything about elephants, but no one at the Bronx Zoo knows anything about elephants. As the judge said in our trial, she noted that we had affidavits from the world's greatest experts on elephants, and the Bronx Zoo didn't bring in any experts on elephants. That's because, number one, there are no experts for elephants who would go against us. But the interesting thing about the $1 billion organization is that they hire elephant experts, but we noticed they didn't require them to go in, probably because if I was an elephant, I would refuse to go in, because what am I going to say, that the way they're treating them at the Bronx Zoo is the best way to treat an elephant? They aren't going to do that. And so they literally had no experts whatsoever on elephants who came in. Well, we just brought them in from all over the world.
Yeah, for sure. I think that about wraps up the questions. If now's the time, if anyone has any last questions. Otherwise, Steve and Courtney, thank you so much for taking part in today's special Giving Tuesday Zoom seminar. Any final things you want to say?
Well, I just want, oh, I'm sorry. Go on, Courtney.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for all of your support this year. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And just thank you.
Well, I guess I'd have to say the same thing. Thank you very much for coming and listening to us, and anyone who had questions. We really appreciated it. And it's your support and the support of others who allow us to keep bringing in attorneys to move in as many places as we can, both in the United States and throughout the world. And we're beginning to move faster and faster and more broadly.
Great. Yeah. I have to say the same. Thank you so much to everyone. I just dropped my email address in the chat if anyone thinks of any questions afterwards that they'd like to ask. And please feel free to reach out at any point. So thank you, everyone. Today is Giving Tuesday, the biggest global day of giving of the year. So if you are able to today, please consider donating and supporting. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.